These are very typical problems, and we've decided that we need to take responsibility and talk to other brands about this too, because we are all guilty of it. So we see a responsibility to influence other brands around what we should all be doing, so that we're not doing work the way in 1911 when the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory burned down. That is actually still how a lot of, as we now know, a lot of the industry still happens and takes place. We want to reinvent how the apparel industry should be operating, so that we really are in the 21st century with modern technology, recognizing the value of every single person in the supply chain. Green Eileen takes back old clothing. We resell what we can, and we're holding on to what we can't resell because it's stained or torn until that fiber recycling technology catches up, because we want to be able to do that too.
And we have time for a couple more questions, and I want to let our panelists know that you'll get an opportunity to have final comments before we wrap up. And then we always leave enough time at the end for people to connect with each other, or hopefully connect with the panelists, and we can get to ask your questions.
A lot of what we saw in the movie had to do with global labor and environmental laws. I'm wondering what the fashion industry's relationship to TPP is.
It's like questions tonight.
I can't tell you a whole lot about it. The TPP has, I think, 36 chapters, each one addressing a different industry. Garment production is one of those chapters. In that realm, free trade agreements are not, they're agreements between different nations, but they're not binding on the rest that aren't included. So right now there's 8 countries. And actually, a lot of the countries that we talk about, Bangladesh, Cambodia, are not at this point part of any free trade agreements. I think what it does is helps with what the gentleman in the back was saying. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory started labor laws in the United States, which pushed production down to the south where there was less regulation, which then pushed production, as we got these free trade agreements overseas, to these other countries where we can now reproduce the issues we had here that we tried to fix with regulation that made it too expensive. So, there's less and less places for it to push, but we're now opening up. There's countries in Africa that are part of the TPP, so that's the next push. China is sort of China's losing steam. It has been the leader, it has been the biggest #1 producer of garments, ready-made garments in the world, with Bangladesh being second. China's economy, as we know, is not going well, so that's starting to deflate. Bangladesh is gaining ground in that arena, but the next place to go, and really the last place to go, is Africa. So a lot of Chinese factories are now opening up in Africa. What these free trade agreements do is make it possible for these problems to spread. They're not imposing the regulation in the way that Triangle Shirtwaist Fire started regulation in this country. They are opening up the gates wider and wider for the problems to spread into other parts of the world. So I don't think the people who are negotiating these agreements are that concerned about the problems in the garment industry.
We have a couple minutes left. Yes, please.
If we were to dream, because I do shop secondhand, I've curtailed my shopping, but I can't say as far as my food choices, I feel I've done better than in this industry. And I'm just wondering, if we were to dream, would we have reskilling where we claim this back, like I think Gandhi mentioned, and start sewing more of our clothes in little clubs? Or what if we could just wave a magic wand or come up with how, like Miriam and John, who started 30 years ago with the farmers markets before there were so many, what do we really want to see? That's my real question. And I don't know, textile recycling has gotten much more popular, and seeing that scene in Haiti, I just wonder, do we do it? Are there places where they're doing it properly, or do we avoid it?
Well, this isn't part of dreaming, but it's the other side, which is corporations large corporations respond to their shareholders. It's their fiduciary responsibility. We have to change the system. The shareholders have to say, we don't want to drive just for this profit. So that's one place to start. We have to educate the shareholders. And there's got to be a tear down or a takedown of all these big things. I think it's actually happening, Laurie. I think in a lot of ways there's a lot of responses in the Etsy community, in the maker space, which is bringing it all back down. But do you really see that, or do I really see that as a panacea, something that's happening? No, I see it as a very niche thing. But that's how organic started, was very niche too. So, and I'd love to find a tailor.
My dream is on the environmental side that everything that we make is so pure and so unblemished that you can actually, when you're finished wearing it and you can no longer wear it anymore, you can throw it in the Hudson River and it will become food for the fish. It doesn't just not create damage, but it actually becomes food. That's my personal dream. And that all the work, the work in the garment industry is respectable work that has a path, that is a ladder to something different or new, or offers choices for people. And so personally, that's my dream. And I think that we can get back to that with this consciousness raising that we're doing. And the other thing that I dream is that conventionally made clothing actually costs more than clothing that's made, with organic or sustainable fibers or whatever, with ethical processes as well.
I'll add to that. Things need to cost more, and that's pretty scary, but everything needs to cost more. Because we're paying the cost now anyway. We're just not getting it directly at the register. It's coming out in other ways.
Is there one short question that we have left? Emily, choice there.
Hi. How would you say this would be related to?
Make it polite.
How would you say this would be related to, say, a brand's value? Because you see the articles, specifically social issue societies about Abercrombie, how it used to have a high brand value for teens, and now no one's shopping there because of fast fashion like H&M and Zara, because they would rather buy 5 pieces of clothes instead of 1 piece of clothing. So basically my question would be is, should there be an effort to raise a brand's value again?
Well, when I hear your question, I think of Patagonia. Patagonia charges about 20% more on average than its competitors, and it refuses to make any exceptions in how it produces and how it sources. And I feel like if we can all learn from Patagonia. So in my company, we just became a triple bottom line company, which means that from this point forward, all of our decisions will take into account not just the financial, but also the environmental and social impact. And I feel like that is a trend. It's growing. The B Corporation movement is growing, and that brand value what we think of as brand value will shift, especially with millennials.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify that American Apparel, good, bad, it's a millennial thing, it's made in America, it's no, on the spectrum of things?
So,
He's trying to come back
yeah.
real hard. He's running sweatshops in LA.
Yeah, this is not
It's
just
American
This thing,
sweatshop.
California has a sustainability reporting requirement to track human trafficking. And so every company is supposed to say on their website basically what they do to combat human trafficking. And if you look at the American Apparel website, it's like, yes, we do everything we can. Everything they're making is with human trafficking. I mean, that might be a little hyperbole, but they're not good. Sorry.
Thanks, okay.
Sorry about that.
Not to Debbie Downer this, but this is a global issue, and it includes the United States, because, well, I'm not going to get all political. We're part of it. Part of the global issue. And it extends, it's not just fashion, it's even in the promotional industries, every industry you touch where there's a textile. Every single industry. Cheap is cheap. Cheap has a cost.
With that, I'd like to ask all of our panelists, and I know there's so many more things we could talk about, and I hope that you'll continue to connect with us on Facebook and in the remaining minutes that we have after we allow our panelists to have their final thoughts. What would you like to leave us with? grab the mic when you're ready.
I'll grab it. My dreams, I finally got the words, is where we started 26 years ago, was to have zero waste, and that meant minimal impact. As little as possible, but now I'm just thinking zero. Because as little as possible gives you some roads out, but you have to have a road too, and you have to be transparent, so we're going just towards zero waste.
You know, I think another thing about the movie that really speaks to me was the economist who talks, and the psychologist who talked about the real problem is capitalism, and the real problem is consumerism, and what that's doing to our country. Before coming to New York last year to start this LLM program, I was a public defender and a divorce attorney for a while, long time. And that, what he's saying about mental health issues, it's completely endemic. I think probably most of you know about this, but the consumerism, you know, what takes the wind right out of my sails is the haulers, these young ladies with their showing what they've been shopping for. Or I did some research last semester on, you know, consumer behavior and whether or not people actually care. And everybody in this room actually really cares, and a lot of people, we don't really care, but this country is vast, and it's full of people who don't care. It's also full of people who can't afford to care, who can't afford more than a $5 Walmart t-shirt. And that's because of capitalism, you know, so it is this enormous issue. So I guess I don't want to leave you with on a down note, but we really have to think whole systems. We really have to think, you know, it's not just about consumers, it's not just about companies, it's not just about Bangladesh. It really is a global issue, and without a global effort, it's not going to change.
Ooh, okay, Amy.
Sorry about that.
I'll just say one word, which is restore. Not just do less bad. We need to think of ways to restore the health of the planet and the health of our people.
May I have your attention, please? The library is closing in 10 minutes. If you have any items you wish to check out, please bring them to the section.
I thought it was going to be in Spanish. Okay, grab our new bookmark on your way out, please, and it'll give you all the information about our upcoming screenings, as well as the reminder to save the date of April 16th. That's a Saturday, but we're all going to be down at the waterfront for the Green Austin Earth Day Festival. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to everybody on the committee who comes together every month. And thank you to all of you who come and make this conversation. Otherwise, there'd be half a dozen of us just sitting in the library watching movies with each other. So thanks a lot.